The following is rated S for spoilers.
Maybe we can help each other. If you help me get the monster out of here alive, I can get you the stone.
Right, yeah, because you just have a quick chat with him, sort it out, because you're what? The monster's friend.
Hello and welcome to the Popcorn Hangover. My name is Alex.
My name is Graham.
And today we are discussing Werewolf by Night. We're big Marvel fans, and Graham in particular is not a horror fan. We wanted to do a Halloween episode. So I feel like this is as close as we're going to get without doing like Halloween Town or something.
Whoa, hold on. Okay, hold on. I can listen. Horror is not my first genre to jump into. I have watched horror movies.
I know you have.
There's nothing like Smile, like that's out right now. Smile. Yeah, no way in hell will you catch me in that theater. Absolutely not. Werewolf by Night is a little more my speed, so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly. That is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Werewolf by Night, directed by Michael Giacchino, story and teleplay by Heather Quinn, and teleplay by Peter Cameron, starring Gail Garcia Bernal, Laura Donnelly, and Harriet Sampson Harris, releasing October 7th, 2022 on Disney+. Obviously, we don't have I couldn't find any budget information, and there is no box office gross. So that's all you got from that. Graham, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's spooky season.
It's spooky season.
Yeah, dude.
It's spooky season. Graham, what were your thoughts on Werewolf by Night?
I really, really enjoyed it. I did not know what to expect. It was just fresh. It was something fun and new. And obviously I figured with it being like a Marvel driven project, I figured they weren't going to go like deep, dark, big jump scares, super gory, crazy, bloody, scary, satanic. I figured nothing crazy.
Yeah.
A little part of me was kind of hoping for it. But I think what they did do, like keeping it black and white for the majority of the movie, almost all the way through, having more of like a modern take on classical horror film was dope. Like that it was perfect.
And I'm going to cut you off there, and I'm going to say I'm not going to give credit to Marvel for that. I'm giving all the credit to Michael Giacchino, who directed
100%.
this. Also, I didn't realize he directed this until I saw the credits. I was like, wait, is that the same Michael Giacchino, the amazing composer that I absolutely love and adore? And it is. He's a composer, and he comes out of nowhere and directs this. And it's amazing, and all of his directorial decisions are incredible. Not only did he direct it, but he also was like, hey, I'm also going to compose this, because why not? I'm Michael Giacchino. I can do whatever I want. If you're not following him on Instagram, you definitely should, because he's been posting lots of like behind the scenes like photos and stuff.
Oh, that's dope.
Which has been really cool. Anyway, I cut you off. Continue. What were your thoughts on Werewolf by Night?
No, yeah. I mean, it really kind of what I said summed it up. Like I really did enjoy it. It was fun. Like I said, in that kind of horror aspect, like it didn't feel like, I don't know. I haven't obviously seen too many like thrillers or anything, but it didn't have like that like crazy intense vibe to it in some cases. But then it did. It had a few little jump scares, a few little things that it kind of threw in there, which definitely like made it fun. Dude, I literally thought this was a perfect like little Halloween special, especially for being like the little Marvel special.
Yes.
Like that was really dope. A fun idea. Just kind of throws you into that whole monster side of the universe of the werewolves and others things. Like it's dope. Like I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wasn't really sure what to expect, just because Werewolf by Night comic run is a little interesting, to say the least. We'll get into some of that later. But yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with it all. And also just the amount of stuff that they were kind of setting up with the Bloodstone potentially being a big aspect into what's kind of going on with these mystical artifacts. You've got, Jack, who, let me tell you, when he turned the werewolf, I was concerned because I thought he was going to look like, a pretty stereotypical werewolf. But the fact that Michael Giacchino went full cheese with it and kind of honored the past of horror cinema, but also keeping him looking like he does in the comics. 10 out of 10 decision. I can't speak enough praise to Michael Giacchino as a director.
Especially with the fact, and I don't know if you were going to say this, so if I steal this from you, I apologize. those suits, the cosmetics, it was all practical effects.
Yes.
You see that? That's crazy. That
Yes.
blew my, I literally saw that like minutes after watching this. Like credits are rolling. I'm just like on my phone and I was literally shocked about
Yes.
like, cause like, I mean, it's so easy just to like throw some CGI in the mix. And of course there's like little things edited and things like that, but like that literally made this way better on several different levels. Like it was great.
You got that. You have the introduction of Elsa Bloodstone, and I loved how they slowly gave her iconic weapons. How she just found like the little grapple hook thing, and then she just picked up a blunderbuss, and like at the end, like it wasn't super obvious. Like, hey guys, look at what I have. It was just a quick, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna grab this, and I might use it later. We had the introduction of Man-Thing, who looked incredible.
So good.
I know I'm not the biggest Man-Thing fan in the world. I mean, he's cool, whatever. But I know people have been dying to see Man-Thing on the screen, and he looked just
that was
so
one
awesome.
of the best ways visually, and I think with the story, with an episode, short film, the best introduction they could have just slipped in. It was so good. I am going to say one thing. Elsa, no cap. Straight up thought that was Jessica Jones walking in. Not gonna lie, they look identical, especially in black and white. Like with her jacket, I saw her walk in, and I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" I was like, "Excuse me," and then obviously it wasn't, and I was like, "Oh
yeah, Laura Donnelly and Kristen. What's her name?
I can't think of her last
I literally
name.
just had
I
it,
know, I was
and
about to
then I
say it,
said
and I
the
was
other
like,
name, and then I was gonna say Kristen Stewart, but that's not
That's
right.
not it at all.
That's another
Does it start with
spooky.
an R? Kristen.
It's Kristen Ritter. That's who it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I said that from the beginning. We're gonna cut that out. I definitely see it.
No, Laura Donnelly did great. She was awesome. Her as Elsa, like I said, I want to see more, especially with them introducing Bloodstone and all that in the future. Like that's with Phase 4 being super magical so far.
Yes.
It just it doesn't tie anything in, but just adds it to the mix really well. And like, I don't know, me being like, I don't have a ton of comic history, especially when it comes to the magic side of stuff. And so like seeing this all kind of introduced, like it doesn't feel super overwhelming. And every time they add a little bit extra, I'm just like, okay, that's like an incredibly powerful stone. What's he going to line up against? Who's that going to be used on? Lets me speculate a little more on future things. So
yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I also need to say, because I just can't, every time I've watched the special a couple of times and and I've watched this scene in particular so many times. But when the camera goes down into the hallway as the door is closing and you just see Jack going tearing up people werewolf, I was just like, oh my gosh. Again, there's no way Michael Giacchino did this.
Yeah.
That's just not possible. He's already a brilliant composer, and I've just gone on and on about how much I love him on so many episodes of this show. And now he's directing something like this. Oh my!
So well,
this guy can't get any more perfect. I'm obsessed with him even more somehow.
Alex is in love, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. Sorry, world. I'm not available. I'm saving myself for Michael Giacchino. I can't sing enough praises for Michael Giacchino. Let's talk about the special presentation aspect of it, because I think this is a really brilliant idea.
Yeah, it definitely is. When I saw that they were doing something like this and kind of throw in the mix, I was not like worried, but my thing was like, okay, you're not making it a movie, and you're not giving us basically more than like an episode, right? I mean, the series that we get have 45-hour-long episodes, and some of them. I was kind of like, is this going to be enough? Is it going to have enough time to do what Marvel normally can do or should do? But also, like I said, going into it, I didn't know how much to expect. So the time slot of like a 1 hour special, I really had no idea what to expect. But after seeing it, like this is one of the best ideas they've had in a while. Yeah. This is so, like I said, if they do this with more characters, more introductions primarily, like I kind of like this, to me felt like a, like what's it called? Like the behind the scenes episodes after like shows and stuff, the behind the assembled. Yeah, they're the assembled. Yeah. Like something like where it gives us like a behind the scenes, like, yeah, give us like a short introduction, like a 1 episode, 1 hour introduction for some of those characters that aren't going to be thrown in the mix of like a movie or something.
Or well, I even think it could be for characters who are going to be really important in the future. I think it's a really brilliant way to introduce this kind of stuff now in a very non-rushed way. But also not trying
to like overload people with like, hey, here's something new, learn all this, take this in?
Yes.
Okay.
They're taking stories that have that are vital to where they're wanting to go and where they're wanting to expand the universe. But also like they aren't really, there's enough content there that you can't just throw it into a movie and give it without sacrificing either explaining what all this content is or ruining the movie or TV show or whatever. So like there's too much content there to just shove it into something else, but there's not enough to make it its own grand thing. And so I like this idea of like, we're introduce these characters, and if they show up again, they show up. If not, they don't. But also like is this aspect to this world. Yeah. It was very like Moon Knight to me. That's the kind of vibes that I got from this show. Just in terms of it's not really connected to anything. It's in the universe. Yeah. It's introduced. I mean, Moon Knight was introducing gods and all this different aspects of that kind of stuff. Whereas here, Moon Knight just had more potential. It had further to go. It had more story to tell.
Definitely.
And also was going to sell better. Than Werewolf by Night, who most people probably didn't even know was a comic run. They just thought that was a cool title.
Right. I had no idea. Really. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like how they went like all in with it too, with the intro, totally ripping off the CBS special presentation logo at the beginning. And then going into the normal MCU intro, whatever you want. I don't even know what to call that. Is it like an intro theme? Whatever,
just the theme, the Marvel theme.
Yeah. Whatever that is. I like how they broke it up and they are inserting like just really corny, old horror sounds. It just, I don't know. I was immediately put into the headspace of where we were going right away.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I completely agree. Like I said, it was for me. Like I said, never watched a lot of the classical horror movies or anything, and it gave that vibe. Like when you see the red and white, like that classic Marvel logo just slowly shift to black and white, and then you get those like Halloween sounds and the werewolf howl and things like that just all thrown in, and then it's the weird take to the theme music thing. Like it just, it definitely puts you in just like like for me, it was just like, okay, I really don't know what to expect, but like I'm ready for it. Like I was ready. It was great. Yeah. I just don't know, dude. I'm ready to watch it again. Literally just talking about this now. I saw it.
All right, we're going to stop recording. We're going to come back in an hour.
I'm going to be even more hype here in a minute. No, I'm just kidding.
So with the special presentation like format, we already have some pretty solid rumors that Silver Surfer could be getting a special presentation, which I think would fit. Which is also partially where I'm getting some of my thoughts on why this is genius. I think it's really cool. Let's give Silver Surfer a little more story and make him a complex character. Because, for example, I feel like the only way to really introduce Silver Surfer and ultimately Galactus, I feel like that's something that got to go eventually with just how big everything is getting all the time. To give Silver Surfer the depth that he deserves, they can't insert that into a Galactus movie or Fantastic Four movie and not make him a one-dimensional villain turns good, whatever. Like I'm really excited for him to take the special presentation opportunity
and really just run with it.
Yeah, just to give the Silver Surfer the development that he actually deserves and that he needs. So whenever he does show up, if you don't watch the special presentation, I'm imagining it'll be fine. He'll just be that one-dimensional villain that you're used to. But if you are keeping up with all of the story and everything that's happening, it's going to make that experience even better. It's going to make that story better. And also it's consumable enough, and under an hour is relatively simple for someone before, I'm going to go watch this movie later. Let me watch this special quick thing on Disney Plus.
Put the thing in 2 times speed. Let's go.
I mean, I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't either because I feel like it'd ruin the experience, but that's how I watch my YouTube videos. So.
I'm about to say, you do that all the time.
I do. Not for like, it depends for the content. The content, YouTube 100%. Anything on there, it's not important enough. I'll just run through that.
Very, very strange. But you do you. Whatever you want. What other special presentations would you like to see? Could you see?
See, I don't know. I was trying to think about that earlier because a big thing, I loved anytime a movie's about to come out and they do those recaps kind of on Disney Plus, and you can sit down for it's 8 to 12, 15 minute little video normally. but it gives you like a solid recap about that character you're about to see or where they showed up last, things like that. And like I've thought like that would be a really good idea for incoming characters. Obviously, there's no recap because we haven't seen them yet. But like with this basically being that idea, like it's
accomplishing the same thing,
right? It gives you like kind of gives me what I want, but I don't know who would come in. Like obviously, I don't know who's coming in next.
Right.
But I don't know, like, especially like if they did, say they lean more into kind of like this monster universe side of those who like we really rarely get, they barely get talked about much, barely get recognized. Like I think it'd be super fun to like, especially around these like holiday seasons, like kind of throw something wild in the mix. Like, yeah, give us that. Like a holiday special or like just a special. Yeah. Just like, I just don't know what to. I don't know what I would want to see.
That's fair.
That's the thing. Like I had no idea about this. I would have never asked for this. But I'm so happy we have it.
Yes.
What would you? Yeah, I feel like you have some ideas.
there are just so many like short like little runs that I think would be interesting, and I keep like going back and forth on like if I don't know if it should be exclusively like for new characters like Jack and Elsa or Silver Surfer, or if it could even be like let's just tell smaller stories with old characters. So like imagine just a quick one-off Spider-Man adventure where it doesn't really warrant a big movie or anything. It's just let's just have Spider-Man do his Spider-Man thing, or like you could introduce Miles Morales in that way, and it could just be Miles Morales doing his thing, and Spider-Man is in the background. I mentioned it a few weeks ago. Frontline I think would be a fantastic way to introduce that story, or even just any newspaper, because there's so many interesting stuff like papers and things with the reporting in the Marvel universe. Frontline could be cool. I think in general, I would love to see Marvel do an event the way that comics do it, and they kind of got there with Infinity War with having the snap happen throughout all these different places. But I would love to see a phase. And back when Civil War was announced, this is what I really wanted them to do.
Okay.
I think it'd be cool if, let's just use Civil War as the example. Civil War that's the finale. That's the grand finale, right?
Right.
Or even make it a trilogy of films. So you open with Civil War, Iron Man, and that's the introduction to it all. And then you have Civil War 2, Captain America, and that's in the middle. And you have Civil War 3, Spider-Man, that's at the end. And then in between those, all the movies that come out in that time period are all around the Civil War arc. So it's not just a phase of random movies that are building up to something else. It's literally just one massive event through all of the films that are, all of it is just one after the other. So sure, if you watched just the Civil War trilogy, it would make sense.
Yep.
But you could have all these other stories happening with these different characters where those events, are affecting it, and they can have fights within it, and it could all just be like a massive of just I don't know. I think that could be really cool.
That would be insane.
And I think that is somewhere where something like special presentations could really shine if that was an idea that they did. I mean, that's kind of what Frontline was okay, you have like this big thing happening. Let's just say this happened during the snap, right? The snap happened. What if there was a special presentation of just random people reacting to the snap happening? It opens with it happening, and then it shows it's just the immediate aftermath of what the snap was like. That doesn't affect anything really, because the snap is old news, but I think that would be really interesting to see.
Different perspective of the event.
Yeah, and I feel like every time in Phase 4 that we've seen stuff happening with the snap, it's always been really interesting with how they all came back or how people reacted. I think it could be cool just to have a quick, hey, here's how the world operated, and here's what was going on during the snap. Here's how everybody knows about what the snap even was. Yeah, like I don't know. I think that could also be really cool,
dude. That would
keep it within universe.
Yeah. Because like like even just with like No Way Home is probably like the more fun stuff. Giving us those extra clips that like had the interviews about the snap and interviews about Peter and like little things like that. Like even just like that, those little extras, like that felt fun. Like even if we got like that as those specials, just some extra, like not extra necessarily, but something to like give either a different perspective or just a different take on the same event's still happening. Because like, not gonna lie, like take Age of Ultron, like, why can't I think of the city?
Sokovia.
Sokovia. Yeah. Thank you. I could just think of the chords. I was like, I could not put that. I just could not get that. It just said it got destroyed, my guy. Like
It did.
thousands of people probably dead. Not gonna lie, a lot of homes destroyed. I think they
And-
got the city evacuated, or at least the floating part.
Yeah, they evacuated
Yeah,
the city, but people still died. I mean, it's been Aaron Zemo's whole motive was Sokovia.
Right.
Wanda's still, all
Torn
about
up about it.
Sokovia.
Yeah.
Lots of people have had effects. We're seeing the effects of Sokovia, but
Exactly, giving us a little more like if they just gave us it's even things in the past. It doesn't have to be something pushing in the future. Just something to give us kind of like a tie-in. I mean, those could be really heavy. They could be lighthearted and fun. Like it would just open a whole new path of things to either tie in or, in this case, introductions. Like it literally would work either way.
I think it could also be interesting to do, like with Zemo, for example. Like, yes, he did kind of come back in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but he was kind of a one-off villain in Civil War. He was kind of a lame villain, really.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of stuff there that he just wasn't the focus of Civil War. There was a lot going on, right? So he didn't get as much time to shine. I think it could be cool to see an origin stories in the special presentation format, like going back and developing whatever, or even like Secret Avengers that would never happen because all these people are done. But like, imagine seeing like Chris Evans leading the Secret Avengers team, like, oh, hey, Nat, come help us out. And like, we actually get to see one of their missions.
Yeah. That would be cool. Dope to note on. That would be huge.
Yeah.
Just seeing that, or like, even like the little things, like basically think of it like a what if, like give us a live action what if. Oh, let me see Cap run Hydra. Let me see like those storylines. Like that would be so dope.
I think that could stay within the what if.
No, it definitely could. That could be an
show.
animated like what if like style. But even episodes where if they wanted to run a special live action something like
maybe
like even kind of like
well,
you were
that's
saying,
what
like,
Marvel Zombies is going to be.
Yeah, that I'm really excited for too. But I'm just thinking like when you mentioned a minute ago, like if it was just like Spider-Man, just like taking down like neighborly bad guys as Spider-Man now, because no one really knows who he is, whatever, say he's just doing his own thing. Like that would be fun. Like basically take those animated, like the Amazing Spider-Man show, just like literally those were like 20-minute little clips that gave a whole little story. It's like
you could have a really quick adventure, and I feel like
it would build
someone
on the
like
character
Tom Holland, who is getting kind of burned out on it, at least that's what it seemed like to me, would probably be more willing to dedicate the time to film
like
a
1 or 2
1-hour
of these.
special, a 1 hour compared to like No Way Home, low budget special, than actually doing a whole other movie.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would definitely be, I feel like, appealing to most actors too, because I know a lot of people don't want to be written on or brought on for just a quick little nothing. But I feel like this would have a more
Unless
of
you're
an impact.
Benedict Wong, in which case
Homie's just signing every contract put in front of him. Him and Madison going to be watching Netflix all night long, dude. They're just sitting there, just doing their thing.
I mean, there's him, there's Abomination, there's maybe Ned, you got America Chavez, like everybody is hanging out with Wong.
We love it. I love it. I'm sorry. He could run.
It's no longer the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is now the Wong.
The WCU?
Cinematic Universe. I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Graham, do you have any final thoughts on Werewolf by Night?
Like I said, really, really enjoyed it. I want to see more things like, which I don't know how much of like monster history Marvel has. Like obviously the Man-Thing for sure. I knew of. Jack did not know his character. Werewolves I've assumed were there. Things like that. There's different monsters. Like I would love to see this approach, kind of like a monsters universe.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just part of the MCU. Like, yeah, that would be dope. I think this whole special presentation thing is just a solid idea overall.
Yeah, the special presentation is a really great platform. Werewolf by Night was fantastic. What you were saying with like, you don't know much about kind of the monster history and stuff. Yeah, it's actually quite rich. I feel like there's a big aspect to Marvel that not a lot of people know about. And with it being spooky season, we're gonna dive into that and just how we're gonna dive into that and all the spookiness that Marvel Comics actually brings to the table.
Dude, let's do it.
So we'll be right back.
Dude, I'm so glad we're doing this.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a lot of fun, and it's not as difficult as I thought it would be.
No, not at all. Like Anchor has made it especially easy when it comes to like actually getting our podcast out on the air. Because when hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all the listening platforms. So easy getting it over to Spotify, getting it to Apple, wherever you're trying to get your podcast to.
Yeah, I think we're on like 7 platforms just through Anchor, and not even just the distribution, but even just creating the podcast. Like there's so many recording and editing tools within it, so you can record, edit, add music in, sound effects, all sorts of things directly through Anchor, and it is free.
Dude, that's amazing.
It's incredible. So if you would like to start your own podcast, just like ours, go to anchor.fm on your desktop device, or you can go on to your mobile app store and download the Anchor app. Welcome back. We're discussing the spooky history of Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
Ooh. We need to. I should have answered like some spooky noises or something.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'll do that in post.
Throw that in.
Probably not. No. I'm kind of lazy sometimes. Anyway, Graham, did you know about the fact that Marvel isn't really all superheroes and stuff, especially at the beginning?
Honestly, no. I'm not gonna pretend like I did. A part of me wants to say yes, because like obviously like I know like some little things, kind of like I mentioned, like the Man Thing and like something. Like I know those characters exist. I'm assuming they don't have a whole happy, family friendly, fun style comic run and things. I'm assuming they've done some horror things. I'm pretty like I've heard of like some horror comics and stuff, but I don't know. No, I don't have much of a too much of a history on it.
Well, here's another question. Whenever I mention comic books, I imagine the first thing you think of are like superheroes, right?
Yeah. Like my boy Spider-Man.
Like your boy Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. In like the 20s, 30s, 40s, like in early comic book period, horror comics were actually like that was the thing. Like you said, comic book horror was the first thing that came to mind, not superheroes. Superman was really, the reason he's so iconic is because he was kind of the first like superhero comic to actually kind of exist.
Right.
I mean, it was a very, very big gamble, and I'm not going to get into that because we're not talking about Superman.
It's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a different conversation. No, but Marvel was actually extremely was all in on the horror thing because that's what everyone was doing. And did you know that Spider-Man is actually kind of like was designed to be a horror superhero?
No.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I always remember
your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is actually a monster.
Which, like, you say that question. I'm assuming you've probably seen like the interview with Stan Lee, where he tells a story about like introducing Spider-Man. Everyone's like, who would want to read? Like, that's weird. It's kind of creepy. It's a boy man spider thing. Like, that's gross. That's weird. Yeah, but no, I mean it is definitely a weird concept. But no, I had no idea.
It is a very strange concept. So yeah. So here's the thing, like Marvel in general was very horror driven, like Hulk, for example.
Yeah.
Everyone now knows that Hulk, he turns into the Hulk whenever he gets angry. That's not initially how he was written. Initially,
right.
The Hulk would turn into Bruce Banner would turn into the Hulk whenever the sun went down and he turned into a big gray monster. And they turned him green later on for other reasons. But he was supposed to be a big scary monster who, and that was
kind of like a Jekyll Hyde, kind of like a
yes, exactly
wild.
Like Jekyll Hyde.
Okay.
That's why he was created. He was a horror person. Marvel didn't really get into like superheroes in the way that we know them until the Fantastic Four. They're Marvel's first family. But even then, like the Fantastic Four would go off on all of these different dimensions and things. What would they do? They would fight monsters and all these different interdimensional beings. Like the Fantastic Four issue #1, they're fighting a big like goop monster thing. Like they were superheroes, as we would call them now, but like it was still very much superheroes fighting monsters and horror type things. And
that's so dope.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why have we not gotten that? That is a whole tapped potential. I mean, we're kind of getting that now, I guess.
Yeah, that's why Werewolf by Night is such a big deal because, like,
bro,
that's literally how they started, and like we're only just now kind of entering this realm, really. So yeah, Fantastic Four blew up. I mean, it was for the longest time Marvel had Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Spider-Man.
Right.
Those were kind of their three big things. So essentially what happened was like in the 40s and 50s, horror comics were massive. Everybody loved horror comics. But the issue is that horror comics were giving like kids nightmares and stuff like that, naturally. And also, you could make comics about whatever. And so you have like your Superman. So kids love Superman, Fantastic Four. They want these comic books and they see the horror comic books. They grab it. They're terrified, cause all sorts of issues. So then the Comic Code Authority was started. And the Comic Code Authority was very, very restrictive on what you could and couldn't put in comic books. So horror comics were like the big thing, right?
Yeah.
So the Comic Code Authority went in and they said, all right, you are not allowed to use the word horror or terror in any of your titles of stories. So Marvel created Amazing Adult Fantasy because they couldn't use any of their normal like horror, terror, whatever titles for their monster books. But they also couldn't just call it Amazing Fantasy because that sounded too childlike. So they called it Amazing Adult Fantasy. And issues 1 through 14 are all about different types of monsters and horror things. But as I'm sure many of you listening are familiar with, Amazing Fantasy number 15 is quite special for a reason.
What?
It's the introduction of Spider-Man. And you might be thinking, with Spider-Man isn't a monster, and he wasn't. So Amazing Fantasy 15 came along. It was the final issue of the run, and Stan Lee had this idea after seeing a fly crawling on the wall of Spider-Man, of what if there was a hero who could climb on walls. So he was trying to pitch Spider-Man, and everyone was like, that's the stupidest idea we've ever heard of. Flashback to today, and he's the most profitable IP of all time, but that's neither here nor there. Everyone laughed at him and said it's a terrible idea. You can't do it. So Amazing Fantasy number 15 came around. It was the end of the issue. No one really cared what they did. So Stan Lee was like, all right, I'm going to make my Spider-Man hero come to life. If it fails, it fails. It's already in a failed comic run. Who cares? We're just going to throw him in there. So he did. And who did he get to sign on to it? He initially had a few artists who played with ideas, but he went to Steve Ditko, said, hey, here's my idea. Steve Ditko created the iconic Spider-Man design that we all know and love. And Stan Lee said, great. But there's another aspect to why Steve Ditko was chosen. Steve Ditko, before this time, was known for all of the work that he did on horror and monster comics. So when people went to go read Amazing Fantasy 15, illustrated by Steve Ditko, and they're like, oh, this is another monster comic, just like we're used to. And they were expecting a horrifying comic book because Steve Ditko was creating it. And even if you look at some of the panels, like, they are actually kind of creepy. If you look at Spider-Man, for example, he's super like scrawny and awkward poses. Whereas if you look at other, like the Fantastic Four at the same period of time, they're all very broad-shouldered and muscular, and they look very heroic. Spider-Man did not. He kind of looks really creepy. And if you don't really look at it side by side to other stuff, you might just think, oh, it's just
up on it.
It's just an artistic style. But no, it's because Steve Ditko only did horror comics. He didn't only do horror comics, but he did mostly horror comics.
Right.
And so that's what he wrote. And so Spider-Man looked pretty terrifying. And even some, like, he would use darker tones. Like whenever Spider-Man's hunting down Uncle Ben's killer, he's like on the wall, and it looks kind of creepy. And I mean, we don't know Spider-Man to be creepy, but he was designed to kind of look not very heroic, but like a monster.
Dang.
Yes.
That's insane.
Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of things about Spider-Man that are also just kind of like horrifying. For example, he crawls on walls. If you go, I mean, climbing on walls and stuff, like that's a pretty normal horror film kind of trope. You know, they're on walls. It's very
like possessed or something. Just scatter the wall or going.
It's supernatural. It's not okay. It's not how the world works. And I mean, it's a comic book, so you're gonna have to use a little more to help tell people what's going on. If you read it, when Peter first gets his powers and he's jumping from building to building, there's literally a panel where a kid says, "Hey, Mom, look, that guy's climbing on the walls." And what does his mom say? I quote, "That's the last horror movie I'd take you to, young man." It's literally in in the comic, climbing on walls is terrifying, and they are telling you it's terrifying. It's coming from a horror movie. That's the mom's first reaction.
Crazy.
Now, of course, we don't really see it that way, but again, this is the 60s, so it's a little different. One of the things that's a little different about horror versus anything else is that horror is there to like make you feel like the character. You know, when the character in the movie is terrified, you're also terrified, as opposed to like a comedy when someone gets hurt. You find it funny, but obviously the person just got hurt. So like they're not really laughing at that.
Yeah.
Which is a really great way to get you more connected to a character. Notice how Spider-Man is the most relatable hero of all time. And he was modeled after a genre that was designed to make you relate to the characters in the moment and feel like what the characters were feeling.
It's like they knew what they were doing.
It's almost like they knew what they were doing. But you may be saying, but Alex, Spider-Man isn't scary. He runs around in red and blue tights. And you know what? That is a very fair point. I mean, you think of like, you know, I feel like the most obvious aspect of horror is like, you know, with monsters and stuff looking terrifying, like skeletons and bones and stuff. You know, like werewolves, they're all like hairy and big fangs and claws.
Right.
Like, you know, they look pretty scary. Spider-Man doesn't quite fit that. So why is he horrifying? I mean, Peter Parker is just a dude. Well, there's a little more to like making things scary. There's also the things that like are associated, like the associations that you're making with the character, right? So, for example, like serial killers, those are pretty scary, but they're not like physically deformed or anything. They're just people. When you think about it, like Spider-Man, I don't know if this is true, but I would say like the number one fear in the world is arachnophobia. Like I feel like it's probably like the most popular. Like everyone has arachnophobia, I feel like.
Well, I killed the fattest spider in my house yet. I'm not kidding. 2 days ago, I almost walked outside on my back porch. Homie built the whole web right there, head level. I literally, dude, I was gone. I had a heart attack straight up. Literally grabbed a book right next to me and just clapped that thing across the door. No, gone.
Yeah, people hate spiders.
Absolutely not.
There's actually a study done, just like the like a silhouette of a spider is iconic enough to like evoke a reaction in people. Like it might not be like
really
I'm terrified, but like if you like they do like
like,
brain scans and like it triggers like a quick thing in your brain, like this isn't okay. And what does Spider-Man run around with on his chest? A big silhouette of a spider. Not only that, but here's the even crazier thing.
Okay.
So you have spiders, right? But he gets his power from a radioactive spider.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, okay, radioactivity, whatever. That's a pretty normal trope.
Right.
You got to realize this is the 60s, and during the 60s, we in the middle of the Cold War, which is all about nukes and radioactivity. You know, Marvel was
Kinda
wanting
hit home for some people.
Yeah, people really wanted to like read. This was all the craze, and so, but the Comics Code Authority said, "Hey, this is the Cold War. You can't make comics about the Cold War." So what did Marvel do? They created a character who gets bit by a radioactive spider and gets superpowers. And so all of a sudden this nuclear war that's on like the brink of happening isn't so scary anymore because, hey, maybe I'll turn it into a wall-crawling superhero. Yeah. But also that's kind of terrifying. That's one perspective. But from the other perspective, that's terrifying. Like, oh my gosh, this guy got bit by this radioactive spider. What's going to happen to me? Like, what if I don't turn out quite as well?
Yeah.
So you have all of these things, and so the question I have to ask is, I'm not question. I will admit this could all just be a massive coincidence and people looking at way too deeply into all of these things, but I feel like there's enough here that like Marvel took what they knew and completely changed everything. Because again, Spider-Man is the most popular IP of all time.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Spider-Man. It's a great story, and everything about it was designed to propel him to success by using all these horror aspects, all these things that they weren't allowed to do anymore. Because of the Comics Code Authority, they managed to twist and
found those little loopholes.
Yeah, I don't even call it loopholes, really. Like they just, I don't know, they took the same concepts and they somehow...
They made it work.
They made it work better than anyone could possibly imagine.
That's crazy.
So those are like the real world origins of Spider-Man.
That's literally great. That's insane.
Yeah. So Spider-Man is a monster. And I was thinking about this and I'm thinking, okay, like Marvel was really, really, really smart and clever in that moment. Like, and finding a way to basically propel a whole new like aspect to their company and honestly kind of saving it. I mean, it was doing fine. It had other properties and things, but like Spider-Man definitely kept it moving. Then I started thinking about it. Like, I feel like Marvel is one of the most innovative companies ever, especially with storytelling. Because if you look at what they did with comic books, they were a major part in shifting from horror to superheroes, by making superheroes that on the surface aren't horrifying at all, but when you dig deep into it, there's a lot of horror aspects to this character, which would make an easy transition. Yeah. But then if you look at the MCU, I mean, they were a dying company at the time. They had Iron Man. They had this one IP and an idea. And so they just kind of took what they knew. They started working with it. And now look at what it's grown into. I mean, I remember my dad, it's a very vivid memory in my mind. I don't know why, but I remember my dad being like, hey, did you see, like, there's a new Captain America movie coming? I was like, oh, I love Captain America. That'll be so cool. He's like, yeah. And then they're going to make an Avengers movie. And I was like, that's going to be super cool. He's like, yeah. And they're going to take like Captain America and Thor and Iron Man, and they're all going to be in the Avengers. And I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. He's like, why not? I was like, they're going to have like 2 people playing Captain America, and then they're going to have 2 people playing Iron Man and 2 people playing Thor. Like, that's going to get confusing. Like, why are there multiple, like, why would they do that? And he was like, no, it's all the same people. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Cause then you have like Chris Evans has this Captain America movies, and that's that story. But then you have Chris Evans in the Avengers, and that's its own story. Like, that's going to get confusing. Like which story is like real? Like, if he dies in one, he's still living in the other. Like, I could not comprehend. My like 8-year-old mind at the time could not comprehend how a cinematic universe could be possible. And now there are people who have grown up with the MCU who can't imagine a movie just being a one-off.
Yeah. Everything's got to be connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. You have no idea. My mind is literally so blown right now. Like, I knew some history. I knew some of this. This is crazy though.
Yeah.
Especially a big part I don't know why I'm so like not attached to this, but I did not know. I literally, while you were talking, like Googled like a list of like the amazing adult fantasy, like the Marvel like monsters like list. Like, that's crazy. I literally did not know about any of these.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally wild. I'm trying to think of like, it doesn't like drop the names on the top on the front, but like I'm literally, I just can't, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
would definitely go like Google some of those.
Yeah. I'm gonna literally try and find them and read them if I can, because that's literally so good. And like, of course I knew like Amazing Fantasy 15. I literally never knew about the word adult being inserted into that title and having so much more to deal with it. Which is just, I don't know. And like, I hope I see all of these on screen one day. I don't know why I'm so.
Well, you gotta realize that they're also just like quick one-off stories. Like, well, no, because Spider-Man was never intended to have his own run. Right. It was always just the one thing. Here's this cool superhero origin. Yeah.
But no, I'm not saying give us like a monster universe. So I'm just saying like, like, dude, like I would love to see like we were talking before, like a special presentation. Like, give me all the like Tim Booba. Tim Booba is literally a terror, the Thing looking. That's what it looks like with horns, but like, dude, that's crazy to me. I am genuine. I hope everyone listening to this is just as mind blown as me. They probably aren't, because they definitely don't. They're definitely. I can't imagine me as.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I was pretty mind blown whenever I was doing all of this research and I discovered all of this.
See, that's us. Some people are just like, who asked?
That you know what? That is fair. That is a very fair point.
But I wish I would have asked
Yes.
A very long time ago.
Yes. I'm going to link to a YouTube video by NerdSync. That's where I got a lot of this. That's where like this whole rabbit hole of thought kind of stemmed from. He does some really great stuff over there, so check him out. Link in the show notes. But here's the thing: Marvel hasn't stopped, and we're going to tie this all back into Werewolf by Night. All right,
Okay.
we're going to bring it. We're going to bring it home. Because like obviously movies were great and everything, but like some stories you can't tell in a movie. Like imagine WandaVision trying to condense that into a movie. Like it wouldn't work.
No.
Look, I mean, Moon Knight, for example, you could have made a movie, but it wouldn't have been. It just wouldn't have been.
It would
the
have been
same.
sacrificing.
She-Hulk.
Yeah.
You can't make a movie just with the style. Like you couldn't have a show of that style with a movie. So obviously like, they had that limitation, and I do normally say that limitation is what sparks creativity. But in this case, I feel like they needed to expand to be able to tell all the stories they wanted to tell.
Definitely.
And I might be giving them more credit than they're owed. It may just be Disney Plus came around and they said, "Hey, we need to inspire new subscribers." That could be it. But I'm going to choose to believe that at least some part of them was like, you know what, we have a cool way to innovate. Let's take what we've done with the movies. Let's take these massive budgets that we have and all the technology and resources we have, and let's create different types of stories and tell new stories like Moon Knight, who would never get a movie, I don't think.
Right. I don't know. Yeah.
You know, and in some cases you have Falcon and Winter Soldier, which should have been a movie. But like, I feel like they're still continuing to innovate in that regard. Like they're still taking what they know with the movies, transitioning it into a show. And then now once again with Werewolf by Night, they're kind of taking, okay, we have these stories. There's not really enough content to make a show, but there's also too much. Hold on. How do I want to phrase that? That didn't make any sense.
I was following.
No, but that wasn't going to make sense what I was going to say. Like, I don't know. You have a story and there's too much content to just like shove into a movie really quick. I mean, we talked about this last segment, but also there's not enough content to make its own show or movie or whatever. So like now they're trying to transitioning into a special presentation, a special feature thing. And I think it can open up a lot of new doors for new opportunities, for new stories to be told, for characters like Jack and Elsa, who people may not have known about before, and getting to actually see them and the stories that they have to offer.
Yeah. Even just introducing them, because even like my main thing is I love the idea of like giving us a person, and then like if we see him again in the future, great. If not, great. We still got him. Clearly we enjoyed this. Like that's the main thing, is like this on its own is literally fantastic. Wraps up everything it needs to, introduces a list of characters, Bloodstone, things like that. I hope we see him again. But if we didn't, I'd be like, I could just go rewatch
and even
that.
at the very least, like, and we keep comparing it to Endgame because that's what we have. I don't know if they can't do the exact same thing every time, but like Howard the Duck is in that final battle. Howard the Duck she's just a couple quick post-credit scenes. Yeah. And that's it. But like, it's just a cool moment for the fans who were there for everything and who witnessed it all. They're like, oh, hey, I know that guy. And that's a really cool, I mean, it's a complaint of mine that's how they build spectacle of, we're going to have this character and this person's going to be in this movie. And that's their big idea of spectacle. Yeah. But at the same time, it is nice at times. And I feel like in that case, that's small enough to where it's not, the whole story isn't on the crux of that. Like the whole, for example, Multiverse of Madness, like the whole story was on this one moment where all of these characters came together, as opposed to an Endgame where the story on its own is just perfect and amazing and brilliant. And it's only elevated by the fact that we have these characters coming in. And so allowing yourself the ability to do another Endgame level event on an even larger scale, by introducing all these things here and there and telling good stories, but then you're allowing yourself in the future to just focus on telling good stories, and then you can naturally introduce these characters in as you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited for, because even just knowing that they're now here, and like I said, whether we see them or not, they're introduced, they're there to use. But like it just gets me more excited for the future of the MCU. If anything else, especially just because like, Feige and everyone's been like, like if you want to kind of pay attention to this, like it is going to be not like important, but it's going to be kind of important for the future moving forward, things like that. Cause it does introduce little things. So that's just like, it's just, when it's a little thing like this, it's great to experience. It's great to watch. More or less, it's kind of a tease to what's come and what's coming next. And dude, it's like, I'm hooked. I'm ready for the next. Like I said, if they do, kind of like we mentioned before, if the rumored Silver Surfer, if that is to come, say that we get that in the next year or two, that will be dope. And dude, they might have 3 or 4 of these lined up. They might have already filmed, and like I don't think I heard of any word of this before, like maybe a little bit before it came out.
Werewolf by Night actually has a very, very long history that I did not know about, that I would encourage you and all the listeners to go check out.
I just read a special presentation style. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Cause they just kind of kept that under wraps. So I'm just like, they could have had they could have 3 or 4 or 5 of these lined up, and who knows, Christmas comes around and boom, here's something there. Valentine's Day, who knows? I don't know. They just like throw them out of it occasionally, which would be sick. But no, also, yeah, this monster knowledge as well as the Werewolf by Night series. Like I said, I had no idea. I really thought they just kind of pulled this out of somewhere. And Michael Giacchino was just like, "Hey, I have this idea," and I was like, "Yeah, good for him. You go off, my guy." But I guess he had some history to work off of.
Yes, he did. Yeah, Werewolf by Night. It's an interesting run, that's for sure. It's not really what the presentation was, because it's that actual like, yeah. Go check it out if you're interested. If you like this, go check out that comic run. It's
sick.
It's a good one. It's a fun one. Lots of monsters.
I'm excited. Like I said, I just want to watch this again. I really did enjoy it. Like especially if you don't like horror, definitely give this a try. Like a part of me personally, I like the thriller style.
I know people who like did jump quite a bit when they were watching it, and I was like, why? But
that's what, when you told me that,
if horror is not your thing, then like,
when you told me that, and I was like, I don't know anyone that probably would. I was like, I should be fine. I was fine. Don't get me wrong. But I was, and like my wife, she loves horror movies. She loves reading those books and going into that stuff. And so I was just like, she's not gonna have any problem with this. But I was like, dude, I got to keep my cool. And thankfully, I was able to. It was a really fun watch. And like I said, I'm gonna look into a lot of that history in that comic run. But dude, if I gotta recommend, if you don't have Disney Plus, by now, I'm assuming you do. If you listen to these episodes, you would have to for the majority of things.
I mean,
maybe, but you should get it and definitely check it out.
Yes, you should. That's a recommendation from Graham and also myself on Werewolf by Night. You've been listening to The Popcorn Hangover. I'm Alex. That's Graham. We've been discussing Werewolf by Night. What were your thoughts on Werewolf by Night? Did you like it as much as we did? Did you know any of this monster spooky history that Marvel has?
Just as mind blown as I am.
Yeah, let us know over on all the things: Instagram, TikTok, patreon.com/thepopcornhangover. And your tease for next week, well, things are going to get weird. That's all I say. Graham really liked that one.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, that's all I got for you.
Peace.